Hello everyone, my name is Havian and today I'm going to be comparing the PSVita version and the PS3 version of Sword Art Online Lost Song. So I have done the first chapter of the game on the PSVita version just so I can get a good feel of the game. So I've done the whole of the first area. And I thought, you know what, let me take you through the different areas, show you the difference. Show you the differences, tell you about the differences, and I will be actually flicking between the PSVita version and the PS3 version so you can see the differences yourself. Main difference is that the PS3 version, the resolution is much better and it's much sharper. So this video is going to be on YouTube in 720p, but it's going to be at like the highest bitrate so you can actually see the differences. But you will notice when you start looking at it, the PS3 version is much sharper. I'm going to be using the Vita TV to actually do this comparison. On the Vita's screen, because it is much smaller, the game will look a lot sharper and it will look comparable to the PS3 version on the smaller screen. But when you're using the Vita TV, it does look a bit, I guess you could say it looks a bit pixelated around the edges. It looks a little bit jaggy. It looks a little jaggy, it looks a little bit rough. But when you're actually playing the game, you don't really notice it. So at first, if you switch between the PS3 version and the Vita version, you'll notice things. But if you are just playing the game, you just don't notice the difference at all. And that's from a Vita TV and a PS3 standpoint. If you're playing it on the Vita itself, then it's gonna look identical it will look identical to the PS3, but the only difference is the PS3 version can be scaled to a larger screen. But Vita TV, you'll see they will have a little bit of trouble. Every now and then the game does lag if there's too many things on the screen. Or I wouldn't say lag it, there's a few frame drops. But I'm gonna go into the first area and fly around just so you can see what it's like out in the field. And I'll do a little bit of fighting, I'll go into the dungeons and I'll do that kind of thing. There are a few options that have changed. So in the PS3 version, there are options to increase or decrease the size of the screen, but those options have been removed in this version because you don't really need to change the size of the screen. And you have the Union. So if you're playing on PS TV, you can use R1 and L1 to actually activate the Union. But if you're using the Vita itself, then you actually have to push you can push R1 and L1, or you can just tap the right hand side of the screen. So visuals wise, it is still pretty good. It's still got a lot of the effects that it had on the PS3, like these light rays and all of these particle effects flying around in the sky. But the PS3 version is a lot smoother when you're actually flying around or when you're in combat. And the UI is actually smaller on the PS3 version. The UI in this game, when there's a lot of things on there, it can take up a lot of space. Like if you've got the drop list on the side of the screen, and if you've got the map open, and if you've got them talking, it does take up a lot of the space. But if you're when you actually get into the swing of things and you're just playing it normally, you don't really notice it. You'd only notice it if you go back and forth between the PS3 version and the Vita version. So let me do a little bit of fighting. Combat wise and button input wise, it's pretty much the same, but the PS TV, for some reason, I know a lot of games, they do change the control scheme when you're playing it on a PlayStation TV to make up for the extra buttons you get with the pad. But this game, even though it's on the PS3, it doesn't do it. You're playing it on the PS TV and it doesn't add the extra buttons that you would get from the PS3's pad or PS4's pad when other games do it, and those buttons are in use on the PS3. So R2 would usually activate the Union, or you could use R1 and L1, and L2 would actually open the chat window. But there's still ways to actually do it. Holding down select will open up the chat menu and the emote menu, and the Union can still be activated through the R1 and L1. There are ways around it, but it's just a bit weird that they didn't bother to actually put that in when the PS3 version actually has it, and when a lot of other games do change the control schemes depending on what platform you're playing on. If you switch from PS TV, then you get extra buttons. Then if you go to Vita, then it just goes back to the normal button layout. It's a little bit odd, doesn't make much of a difference, but it's a little bit strange. But combat-wise, everything is exactly the same as it is in the PS3 version. The only difference is what I noticed in one of the first quests you get in the game, where you have to kill a few of these jelly creatures or flan creatures or whatever they're called in this game. And there's quite a few of them on the screen. And for some reason the game does chug a little bit when there's too many of them on the screen. It's that visual effect there. When you kill an enemy and the particles fly out, when you kill loads of enemies at the same time, and those things are all over the screen, that's when the game does start to hang up a little bit. It's not a big deal, it's just one of those things that you'll notice if you're coming straight from the PS3 version. But that being said, the Vita version is actually pretty good. I prefer the Vita version. Overall, I prefer the Vita version, but I will show you exactly why that is. There are a few things that I did complain about on the PS3 version, and for some reason they are fixed on the Vita's version. You'll think it was the other way around, but the Vita version has things in it that work better than the PS3 one, graphical wise. Odd. It's odd. But I will be comparing between the two versions on the screen. I will put a little note on the corner of the screen telling you which version will be played, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see the difference yourself. Even though the differences will be pretty minor. Apart from when I start going into dungeons, you'll see. When I go into a dungeon, you'll see there's a clear difference. Let me pick up a few items. I'm not gonna be as strong in this version, on the Vita version, because I've only just started it. In the PS3 version, I've already completed the game, so I'm probably one-shotting everything in the gameplay videos that I put up. But you can see I'm moving around the screen. It's looking fine. It is looking totally fine. This is the Vita TV version, but it runs exactly the same on the PS Vita. But I'll say the best comparison you'll get is if you look at the PlayStation V, the PS3 version, it would look like that on the Vita. Just compressed. And a little bit brighter. The Vita version does look a bit brighter. And in the PS3 version, there are certain things that will load further into the distance. So you're going to a dungeon and treasure chests and things like that, you'll be able to see them further away. Same with enemies. But in the Vita version, you have to get a little bit closer before they actually show up. So you can see those enemies are popping up in the distance. This is pretty much the range you'll need to be. But it's still a pretty good range. Let me see if I can get some other stuff to pop up in the distance. There you go. You can see now. You saw those ones popping up in the distance. You can see how far you can actually see on the Vita screen. Yeah, so now I'm going to actually go into where I was talking about. Let me get this little material. I don't know why I'm collecting materials. I'm not even gonna stick with this version. This is just for the sake of comparing. When I actually get the main game, I reckon I'm gonna get it on Vita, or something else that I'm gonna show you later on. Something that may raise a few eyebrows, may get the blood boiling, the blood flowing for some people. Get the juices. Alright, let me go down. Let me go onto the platform. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like from inside of the dungeons. Keep in mind that one of the main other reasons that I'm using the Vita TV and I'm not using my actual Vita capture card is because of something I'm about to show you now. On the Vita capture card, it does show up a lot differently. This is going to be the closest comparison I can make using the Vita TV and the PS3. But I'll be using the same HDMI cable. I'm using the exact same monitor. I'm using the exact same capture device to capture the gameplay from both of them. And you'll see a total difference in the dungeons. The Vita version actually, I'm pretty sure anyone that's watched some of the previous videos of me inside of dungeons, you'll see that it was really dark. In the Vita versions, it's totally fine. It's bright. I don't know why. I don't know how the PS3 version I don't know how they forgot to include lighting in the PS3 version. Or maybe they just wanted to add extra shadows. That's where they were going with it. They were going with the extra shadows. They wanted to make it look that much grittier, that much better, that much darker. But it didn't end up being the best decision. I can see it being something that they could actually patch out. So until they patch it out, I would say the Vita version is much better to play on. It's always going to be better using the pad, so I prefer playing on Vita TV. But at the same time, yeah, I'll say a Vita TV, playing this on a Vita TV or even a Vita is going to be better overall compared to the PS3 version. Even though the PS3 version does run a lot smoother, for me, it's just the dungeons, man. I don't like the fact that I don't like how huge the UI is. It's not that much bigger, but I'd rather I like having the smallest AI possible. Not AI, UI. I like my UIs being as small as possible and not taking up as much space as possible. It's not a huge thing, but that's just the way I like it. But you can see the dungeons are bright. You can see exactly what you're doing inside of here. And I don't know why the PS3, but I even went into the PS3 settings. I tried to change a few of the settings around to see if I could get the PS3 itself to make the game a bit brighter. It did, but it just upped the contrast. Everything just looked washed out. It didn't really do anything. What was it, the contrast? I'm not even too sure what it was. Way up, but everything just looked really, really bright and washed out. It didn't, but the game itself didn't look any brighter. Everything was just grey-ish, if you get what I mean. But I will be putting a comparison between the two inside of here, so you can see for yourself what the difference actually is. There were a few of the bigger bosses that I did actually do. They ran okay. Well, they're not okay. I'll say they ran totally fine. The bigger boss battles, or the one big boss battle that I've done, it ran totally fine. It's only when the enemy got really close to the screen and started doing like crazy moves that you could see that it just wasn't as smooth as the PS3 version. And when I say it's not as smooth, it doesn't really. Honestly, it doesn't mean much. Because it's not very noticeable, and you wouldn't think there was any problem if you played only the Vita version. Let me put it that way. If you played the PS3 version and then went to the Vita version, that's the only way you'll notice any kind of difference or any kind of situation where you think, oh, okay, this game, it's not running as smooth as I thought it would. But Vita version runs totally fine. But there we go. I guess that is a comparison between the two versions and their differences. There's not a great deal of differences, but there are. Some people do actually want to know what would be best for them. If you've already got a Vita, if you got a Vita and then you got a PS3, and if you got a Vita, if you got a Vita, a PS3, and a PS4, get the Vita version. If you've just got a PS3, just get the PS3 version. There's not really much point in getting anything else. And if you have a PS Vita and a PS3, I'll say get the Vita one. Did I already say that? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I'm forgetting stuff here. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Vita, to be honest, because I've got all three systems. I'm just gonna get the Vita one. And you're probably wondering, why the hell am I saying PS4? Well, that's because of something I found earlier. Not for some reason, but my Vita trophies, not Vita trophies, my PS3 trophies for this game are actually in English. Yep, the trophies are already converted into English, and I don't know if this is indicating something. I don't know if it's just a glitch, but it is actually showing the PS4 version listed in the trophies. So I'll put that up on the screen so you can see it for yourself. PS4 trophies, it is linked in with the Vita version and the PS3 version. It doesn't show, so for comparison, I have GODI 2 on the same profile, and it only shows a Vita and a PS4 version. It doesn't show a PS3 version because it's not actually on PS3. So that leads me to believe maybe they're working on a PS4 version for the Western release. Hopefully the thing that a lot of people have been wanting to see may be happening. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see them put it onto the PS4 as well and do crossplay between the different versions. I don't know about crossplay between the PS3, but at least get some sort of crossplay going on. I don't think this game, as far as I know, still from what I've read in the interview, it doesn't have crossplay. It's just got. No, it doesn't have anything. You can only play with the console you're on, and they're going to add not crossplay, cross save to the other versions. So you'll be able to transfer your save to the two different versions of the game. So they said they're working on it. And that seems to be something that they're probably going to do for I don't know, it seems like a lot of companies are building their games for Vita and PS4. I don't know if they're going to do it for PS3, PS4 and PS Vita. I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. It'd be good if they did do it. But there you go. That is a comparison between the 3 versions. 3. And when I say 3, I mean PS Vita, PS3 and Vita TV. You couldn't really see the Vita version, but I've told you about it. And maybe a PS4 version at some point. Well, we've got some more stuff for you to see, some more info, some more of the good stuff coming soon. If you know there's anyone that wanted to see a comparison between the different versions, send this video over to them. Let them see. Let them know the differences. Let them know which version they should get. But until I make my next video, I'll see you all later.